My name is Rowan Ellis. I'm 36 years old. The night my parents posted the photos, I was sitting on my couch in my tiny city apartment, eating leftover pad thai out of the takeout container, half listening to some crime show hum in the background. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. My mom had tagged me, at least that's what I assumed, because she tagged everyone and everything. I unlocked my phone and there it was, a perfectly curated carousel of 10 photos at the new lakeside vacation home. Image 1. My dad and my brother, Max, standing shoulder to shoulder behind a brand new stainless steel grill on the deck, both of them laughing at something just out of frame. The lake behind them gleamed blush orange with sunset. Image 2. My sister, Emily, curled up in a white hammock, her 2 kids piled on top of her like puppies, all 3 of them grinning into the camera. Image 3. My mom wrapped in a chunky knit blanket on an Adirondack chair, cradling a glass of red wine. The caption, "So blessed," scribbled in cursive over the sky. There was one of Max carefully hanging string lights, another of my dad steering the little aluminum rowboat with my niece holding onto the sides, a close-up of a cheese board, firelight, the dog in a ridiculous life vest, paws splayed awkwardly on the dock. In every single photo, everyone looked like a postcard version of themselves, relaxed, happy, lit from behind by golden hour. The caption read, "Nothing like creating memories with the ones who matter." I scrolled back up, looking for myself. Maybe I'd missed a shot. Maybe I'd turned my head at the wrong moment. Maybe my mother had posted in batches. But I wasn't there. Not in the hammock. Not by the grill. Not in the reflection on the sliding glass door. Not even in the background, blurry and half off frame. No candid of me setting a table or unpacking a box, even though I'd spent 3 months arguing with the contractor about that exact deck they were now posing on. And yet none of that was what made my throat tighten. It was that caption. The way the words "ones who matter" sat under all those smiling faces like a carved stone. 40%. That's how much of that house I paid for. My parents had put up 30. Max and Emily had each chipped in 15. I'd wired my share first. I was the one who'd found the listing at midnight, bleary-eyed and burnt out, scrolling through online maps to escape my own life. I was the one who'd texted the family chat. "Hey, look at this place. It's only a 3-hour drive. It could be something." They'd all gone wild in the chat. My mom sent 20 exclamation points. My dad immediately started planning barbecues in his head. Max said, "Imagine game days here." Emily posted a Pinterest board within the hour. I called the realtor. I scheduled the virtual tour. I walked the property myself, on my own dime, when the inspector said he could only do an in-person report. The septic tank turned out to be a mess. The mold in the guest bathroom would have cost twice as much to remediate if I hadn't negotiated it into the sale agreement. The sellers got flaky twice. I talked them off the ledge with a calm voice and a firm deadline, then fronted my portion early when the lender needed proof we were serious. My parents signed what I sent them. Max and Emily wired their shares after the closing was secure and the deed recorded. It was like inviting people to a dinner party, cooking every dish, setting every place, and then watching them show up late and argue over who's going to blow out the candles. I didn't say anything when my Aunt Paula mentioned at Easter that Emily had told her, "Mom and Dad bought us kids a vacation house." I pressed my lips together, smiled, and changed the subject. I reminded myself I hadn't done it for recognition. I told myself the point was to have a place where we could all gather, where my parents could grow old watching their grandkids jump off a dock instead of scrolling their phones in a condo. I told myself that until that caption. Nothing like creating memories with the ones who matter. A part of me wanted to text immediately, to type something cutting like, "Looks fun. Love what you've done with the 40% of my bank account." Instead, I locked my phone and set it face down on the coffee table. The crime show on TV blurred into static. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. I thought about all the small ways I'd been invisible lately, how my mother always bragged about Max's promotion, Emily's PTA presidency, but introduced me at gatherings as our oldest. She's very busy with work. How my brother once joked, "We'd all be lost without Nat the spreadsheet queen," then elbowed me like I should be flattered. How I'd been CC'd on every stressful email about the house, but mysteriously left off the fun invites. Later that week, my aunt posted a photo from the same weekend. A group shot this time. My parents, my siblings, the grandkids, the dog. A slice of cake with Lake House written in blue icing. The caption read, "So proud of my brother and sister-in-law for finally realizing their dream." My contribution was nowhere, again. I decided then that I wasn't going to say anything. Not yet, not in anger. I wanted to see what they'd do when I stopped making everything easy. 2 weeks passed. Then I got the text from my dad. Hey kiddo, we're heading back up this weekend. Can you help with the furnishing stuff? IKEA run maybe, and we want to check out a couple higher end places too. Your eye is better than ours with that stuff. I stared at it for a long time. My mind offered me two scripts. The one I'd always used, sure, what time? I'll bring the SUV. And the one that had been building in the back of my throat since that caption. You made your home, furnish it with them. I thought about the nights I'd spent sketching kitchen layouts on scrap paper, the Saturdays I'd lost waiting for contractors who showed up late, the hours I'd spent on hold with the county about property taxes. I thought about that caption again, the stark finality of, with the ones who matter. I typed slowly. You made your home, furnish it with them. My thumb hovered over the send button. Old reflexes screamed at me to add a smiley face, a LOL, some softening cushion to let them wriggle out of what they'd done. For once, I didn't give them an exit. I hit send. The 3 dots appeared under my message almost immediately, then vanished. Nothing. By evening, the storm began. A text from my mom in the family group chat. It's really hurtful when people turn their backs on family for no reason. Max responded with a single and nothing else. Emily sent, wow, manipulative much? This is about furniture? Seriously? My dad wrote me privately. We included you. Very disappointing to see you act like this after everything. Included me. I didn't respond. I scrolled back up to that caption again. Nothing like creating memories with the ones who matter. On the TV, the crime show's detective was interrogating a suspect who kept saying, I didn't do anything. You're overreacting. I turned the volume down and took screenshots of the text instead. It's funny, the clarity that comes the moment you stop explaining yourself. People don't become worse. They just stop bothering to hide what was always there. They thought my silence meant I'd come around. They had no idea it was the first move in a game I wasn't playing anymore. When I didn't respond to the flurry of texts, the family group chat went dead, like someone hit a light switch. No more good mornings, no recipe links from my mom, no pictures of my niece's school art projects, just this blank space where our noisy, surface-level closeness used to be. I knew that silence. It wasn't peace, it was planning. We'd gone through this cycle before. Whenever I pushed back or said no, there was always the same pattern. First, an explosion. Accusations, guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments about how family always helps. Then silence, the cold shoulder, the behind-the-scenes calls to extended relatives, the speeches about how we're worried about Rowan, she's pulling away. Finally, the rewriting. By the time they came back around, the story would be adjusted just enough that I was the unstable one, the controlling one, the ungrateful one. I could practically hear the script being reworked without even being in the room. 3 days later, my mom sent me a link with no message attached. Pinterest board, lakeside vibes for fall. Navy and cream sofas, porches draped with plaid blankets, lanterns next to manicured fire pits, rustic signs that said things like lake life and good vibes only. The subtext was familiar. Nothing happened. We're moving on. Here's your chance to slide back into your role quietly. I didn't click it. A few hours after that, my brother tried his version of repair. He called while I was reviewing a client presentation. I let it go to voicemail. 10 seconds later, a text popped up. Whatever this is, get over it. You're blowing it up. I stared at the message, incredulous. Whatever this is. As if he hadn't watched me coordinate every painful step of that house. As if the only acceptable emotional volume for my hurt was mute. I typed, "It's not nothing, Max," then deleted it. He wasn't asking for my perspective. He was instructing me to drop it. I didn't respond. A few more days passed. Then Emily posted a story. It was her and Max on the deck, struggling to wrestle a big box sofa out of the back of his truck. The caption said, "No Rowan this time, so I guess we're doing it the hard way." So baby Shamase. The laugh cry emoji sat there like a dare. No tag. No wish you were here. Just a flat punchline for anyone who knew enough to understand it. I watched it twice. My thumb hovered over the little bar at the top. Mute story, block, ignore. Instead, I just closed the app. If they wanted to make an Olympic sport out of furnishing the house without me, they were welcome to it. And they did. From a distance, I watched the mistakes unfold in their perfectly curated posts. The gorgeous outdoor love seat they bought that was clearly meant for an indoor sunroom fabric already looking damp and sad in the background of one of my mom's coffee shots. The wall-mounted TV they hung so low that in every photo it looked like a giant rectangular altar. The fake plants crowding every corner because, as Emily joked in one caption, no one wants to drive up just to water things, LOL. It would have been funny if it weren't such a perfect metaphor. Then the actual problem started. A backed-up toilet in the guest bathroom. I recognized the grimace on my dad's face in a photo Emily posted with the caption, "When you realize kids and plumbing don't mix." A week later, my cousin Jonah texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, saw your dad at Lisa's birthday thing. He looked stressed. Plumbing issues at the cabin? He said something about everyone being slammed and mumbled your name. You okay?" I replied, "I'm fine, just taking a step back." He sent back a thumbs up. Then, for what it's worth, he made it sound like you were overreacting about money. But when I asked, he clammed up. Figured there's more to it. More than he'd hear anyway. 2 nights after that, the leak started. Not in the pipes, in their stories. My sister posted a photo of towels shoved under the laundry room door with the caption, "Home ownership is so fun." A week later, there was a blurry shot of a typed note taped to the front door. I screenshotted and zoomed in. It was from their neighbor. "Please do not park blocking my driveway. If this continues, I will contact the county." The rug in the corner of the photo had dark water stains creeping up its edge. They were out of their depth, literally, in the case of the plumbing. Still, I didn't get a call. Instead, my cousin Heather called. She's the kind of person who avoids drama like it's contagious. So hearing her voice in the middle of this mess was unexpected. "I'm only asking because I care," she said. "But is everything okay with you and your parents?" I let out a humorless laugh. "Define okay." She hesitated. "I was at Uncle David's last weekend," she said. "He was talking to someone about the house. I overheard your name. He said you'd been distant, that you have control issues and are making a big deal out of a couple $1,000s. A couple thousand. I closed my eyes. "I paid 40%, I said. "That's over 200,000. I found it. I saved it 3 times when it almost fell through. They wired their money after I'd done all the work. Now they act like I'm the greedy one." Heather whispered, "I knew there was more to it." "Thanks for telling me," I said. "Of course," she replied. "I just felt icky not saying anything." After we hung up, I opened the shared Google Drive we'd used during the entire purchase process. It was a digital graveyard of my labor. Contractor bids, inspection reports, bank transfer confirmations, spreadsheets mapping out who owed what and when. One by one, I deleted everything I'd uploaded. Kitchen layout files. Gone. Flooring comparisons. Gone. Copies of emails where I'd negotiated repair credits. Gone. The only thing I didn't touch was a single PDF, the ownership agreement formally stating the percentages, 40 for me, 30 for my parents, 15 each for Max and Emily. All pages initialed. My name printed clearly at the top. I didn't send a warning. I didn't announce what I'd done. I just quietly removed their safety net. 2 days later, my phone rang. Emily. She didn't bother with hello. "We're short," she said. "Between the plumbing, the leak, and the property tax estimate, we're tapped. Max took a loan for the grill and the new sofa. We thought we had more time before taxes hit. Can you help just until spring?" I took a breath. "No," I said. She went silent, as if the word confused her. "Excuse me," she finally spat. "No," I repeated evenly. "I've already paid my share. It's in the agreement. Your choice now is to handle your 30 and 15% or sell." "You're punishing us," she snapped. "You're punishing Mom and Dad." "I'm honoring the agreement," I said. "You're the one who thought you could have the house, the aesthetics, the social media clout, and none of the responsibility that comes with it." She hung up. An hour later, my mom left a voicemail. Tears in her voice. "We don't understand where this is coming from, honey. Money comes and goes. Family is forever. You're choosing money over love. We never raised you like that." My brother posted something vague on Facebook. Funny how people hide behind the word boundaries to excuse being selfish. My dad sent a link to a think piece about siblings letting pride ruin relationships. I sat on my couch, phone lighting up with other people's versions of me, and realized something simple. They weren't actually ashamed of what they'd done. They were annoyed the ATM had started charging fees. They didn't miss me. They missed access. That was the night I stopped seeing myself as the difficult child and started seeing myself as the only adult. The one who'd stopped paying for everyone else's denial. After I told Emily no, the family dynamic shifted in a way I hadn't seen since childhood, quiet on the outside, frantic underneath, like a house where someone had turned off all the lights but the floorboards still creaked. My parents didn't call again. My sister didn't text back. My brother didn't send another emoji. They all fell silent in rehearsed unison, as if waiting for me to panic at the absence and crawl back into position. But nothing happened. For the first time in my life, I didn't chase the silence. I let it sit, let it spread across the group chat like frost. That's when the problems at the house started piling up faster than they could explain away on social media. The plumbing they fixed by watching YouTube videos failed again, this time harder. Mold crept up the laundry room drywall like ink spreading through paper. The neighbors complained 3 times. Once about noise, once about parking, once about unsecured trash attracting wildlife. And then nature delivered the blow none of them were prepared for. Winter, early, severe, unforgiving. A storm hit the lake region with a force no forecast had mentioned. Power lines iced over. The whole area went dark. The pipes froze, then burst. The guest bathroom, the laundry closet, and part of the hallway were soaked. Water seeped into the subfloor, warping the boards they'd installed crookedly to begin with. Insurance covered some of it. Not the furnace, not the rotting baseboards, not the emergency call-out fees, and not the critical piece they'd failed to do, winterizing the pipes before the storm. I learned about all of this not from them, of course, but from my cousin Jonah again. He sent a simple text. "Hey, your family okay? Heard the lake house got hit pretty bad." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I'm sure they'll figure it out." He sent another message. "I think they thought you'd show up." Of course they did. In their minds, I was still the dependable one, the fixer, the quiet backbone of a family that never acknowledged its bones. But I was done holding them up. And without me, they finally started collapsing under their own weight. 3 days after the storm, I got an email. Not from them, naturally, but from their lawyer. A request for temporary reassessment of ownership responsibilities and proportional obligations. In plain English, an attempt to legally reduce my 40% ownership because I wasn't helping them anymore. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was exactly the kind of move they'd make once guilt, silence, and emotional pressure failed. I forwarded the email to my attorney with one line. "Handle this," he called 10 minutes later. "You weren't kidding about your family," he said. "Nope. They don't have a case," he said. "Their request doesn't even make legal sense. Just make it disappear." "Oh, it's disappearing," he said. "Already on it." By the next morning, the lawyer had dropped the matter. After reviewing the original agreement, he said, Translation. He realized the document I drafted, the one they'd all signed without reading, was airtight. Because I'd made it airtight, to protect all of us, but mostly to protect myself. The fact that they even tried, that lingered. That wasn't desperation. That wasn't confusion. That was entitlement dressed as paperwork. I didn't confront them, didn't reply, didn't feed the beast. I simply went to the shared Google Drive where all our documents lived and deleted everything I had ever uploaded. Everything except one file. The ownership agreement clearly listing my 40%. Signed, initialed, not up for debate. 2 weeks later, I received a message that became the final nail in the coffin of whatever illusions I had left about them. A stranger on LinkedIn, someone in marketing, someone who knew Emily. She wrote, "Hi, this is weird, and I'm sorry to message you here, but I wanted you to know. I overheard your sister talking about you at a party. She said you were unstable, controlling, and intentionally sabotaging the family's future plans. It just didn't match anything she'd said before you all bought the house. I feel uncomfortable staying silent. You seem nothing like she described you." I read the message 3 times, then closed the app, and deleted it off my phone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. I was done. Completely, utterly done. Then came the refinance attempt. A bank called asking for my signature to finalize a loan using the lake house as collateral. My signature was required, because the house couldn't be refinanced without all co-owners agreeing. I told the loan officer calmly, "I didn't apply for a loan. Please block the application." She hesitated. "We were told all owners agreed." "I did not," I said. "Please freeze the process." I had already filed a consent requirement clause with the county months ago. If I hadn't, they would have taken out a loan using my equity. Without telling me, without asking me, without even warning me. When the loan officer apologized and forwarded me the paperwork, the signature lines were blank. They hadn't even tried to forge my name. They simply assumed I'd say yes, because I always had. They still hadn't realized the game had changed. And then winter dropped its hammer harder. The furnace died completely. Repairs? $7,000 minimum, not including labor, not including structural damage from the burst pipes. Their money? Gone. Drained by repairs they didn't plan for and furniture they bought for aesthetics over function. And I knew what was coming. Sure enough, my phone buzzed with a new text from Emily. Are you seriously still refusing to help? This is getting ridiculous. Then Max. You're choosing to let your family struggle. What's wrong with you? Then my mom. Please call us. This isn't you. This isn't how you were raised. Then my dad. Laura, you have the means to fix this. Don't be spiteful. I looked at each message as they came in, and for the first time in my life, I felt nothing. Not guilt, not anger, not sadness. Just clarity. They didn't want me. They wanted what I provided. They didn't love me. They loved my reliability. They didn't miss me. They missed access. People don't mourn a person they abused. They mourn the benefits that person gave them. And without me, they were drowning in their own irresponsibility. That wasn't punishment. That was consequence. That night I called my attorney. What would it take to sell my share? I asked. He paused. You've reached the breaking point then? No, I said. I reached it months ago. I'm just acting on it now. He cleared his throat. It's doable. Tricky, but doable. Are you sure? Yes. Then I'll start the process. As he talked through next steps, my phone buzzed again. Multiple times. My mom, Emily, Max, unknown numbers, likely relatives. I didn't answer. I looked around my quiet apartment, the place none of them had ever cared enough to visit, and realized I wasn't losing anything. I was finally choosing myself. And selling my share of the house they erased me from? That would be the first real boundary of my entire life. Not petty, not vindictive, not revenge. Just self-respect. And that was something they couldn't take from me. Not anymore. Once my attorney began the process of valuing and preparing my share for potential sale, something inside me unclenched, like I had been holding my breath for a year without realizing it. For the first time since the lake house debacle began, I slept through the night with no dreams of bursting pipes, frantic group chats, or my mother's disappointed sighs. But just because I was done with them didn't mean they were done with me. The unraveling began slowly, the way rot spreads under fresh paint, until suddenly it was everywhere. The first domino to fall was my brother Max. He got laid off. I didn't hear it from him, of course. He hadn't spoken to me since he called me selfish in the family chat. No, I heard it from my cousin Jonah, who, at this point, had unintentionally become my personal news correspondent for the Ellis family drama. Jonah texted, Hey, just FYI, your brother got let go yesterday. Whole department restructure. He's telling people he's between opportunities. Thought you should know. I stared at the message, feeling not joy, not schadenfreude, just inevitability. Max had always lived one step above impulse purchase bankruptcy. Throughout his 20s and early 30s, he treated money like a seasonal resource. When he had it, he spent it. When he didn't, he panicked and then made it everyone else's problem. Losing his job meant losing his stability, which meant looking for someone to catch him. But I wasn't his net anymore. 2 weeks later, another update came, this time about Emily's husband. Hospitalized, chest pains, heart issues, doctors monitoring closely, medical bills stacking faster than they could process them. Emily had already been drowning financially between her kids' school tuition, her avocado-priced grocery habits, and the loans she and Max took out to decorate the vacation home for Instagram clout. One major medical issue was enough to topple the tower. Again, I didn't hear from her directly. Instead, I received a Facebook message from one of her friends, someone I barely knew, saying, Please pray for Emily. She's going through a lot right now. Family is everything. Translation, she's struggling. You should feel bad. Better reach out. I didn't. She didn't want a sister. She wanted a wallet, and I wasn't available. Then came the biggest collapse of all, my parents. I found out through a relative, an uncle who liked to drink a little too much at gatherings. He called me after a dinner party, voice low and conspiratorial. You didn't hear it from me, he slurred. But your folks are dipping into their retirement. Why? I asked. For the house, he said. And other things. He didn't elaborate, but he didn't need to. If my parents were touching retirement funds, it meant they were drowning too. The perfect Instagram-ready life they curated was cracking. And the moment their money ran low, their moral high ground disappeared with it. Around this time, I started noticing a shift in how people spoke to me. Soft voices, careful questions, little verbal landmines disguised as concern. How have you been? We know your family is going through a hard time. It must be tough being the one who's separate. Separate, as if I'd wandered away from the family voluntarily, like a rebellious teenager, and not been pushed out by their entitlement. Then came the spiritual twist, the moment that would have been funny if it weren't so perfectly on brand. There was a knock on my door on a freezing Saturday morning. I opened it to find my parents, standing there with a box of pastries from the cafe near my old office, something they hadn't bought for me since college. My mom's eyes were puffy. My dad looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" my mother asked. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I didn't invite them in. We stood in the dim hallway like strangers negotiating a tense peace. My mom clutched the pastry box as if it were a peace offering to a queen. "We went to see someone," she said finally. "A therapist?" I asked. She shook her head. "A monk." I blinked. "A monk?" I repeated, wondering if I'd heard her wrong. "Your aunt recommended him," my dad said. "He specializes in alignment, energy, ancestral harmony." Of course he did. "And?" I asked, arms crossed. The two of them exchanged a look before my mother spoke softly. "He said our family is suffering misfortune because we wronged someone who gave freely. He said there is a debt, an emotional debt, that must be cleared before things can improve." I waited. "And," she continued, her voice trembling, "he told us that the person we wronged was you." My father nodded slowly. "He said," my dad added, "that forgiveness must be asked for, truly asked for, not assumed." They both looked at me, hopeful in that sad, desperate way people do when they've run out of practical options. It was surreal, absurd, predictable, and painfully symbolic. It took a spiritual intervention, a monk telling them what dozens of ignored conversations never could, for them to even consider acknowledging the damage they had done. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I didn't scold. I simply asked, "Why now?" My father looked down. "Because nothing is working," he said. "Because everything is falling apart. Because we don't know what else to do." My mother's eyes brimmed. "We're sorry," she whispered. "We truly are." I believed they were sorry, but not for the right reasons. Sorry because they were suffering, not because they had hurt me. But I also knew something else. Their apology, genuine or not, wasn't the key to repairing anything. I nodded. "I forgive you," I said quietly. Their relief was immediate, overwhelming, almost childlike. But then I added the part they didn't expect. "But forgiveness doesn't mean access." My mother's face fell. My father blinked. "I'm not coming back into that dynamic," I continued. "I'm not fixing the house. I'm not bailing anyone out. I'm not reopening the group chats. I'm not sliding back into my old role." My dad swallowed. "Then, what does forgiveness mean to you?" "It means I don't carry the anger anymore," I said. "But I also don't carry the family." That silence hit harder than any argument ever had. They nodded, slowly, painfully. They didn't push, didn't guilt, didn't demand. They just left the box of pastries on the floor and walked away. And for the first time, I didn't feel like their daughter. I felt like my own person. But while they were retreating, someone else was getting bolder. My sister. 3 days after their visit, she sent an email titled, "Starting Fresh." It had bullet points, actual bullet points, about rebuilding communication, about resetting expectations, about strengthening the sibling bond. At the bottom, she suggested a sisters-only weekend retreat so we could heal and reconnect. I closed the email without replying. 2 hours later, my brother texted, "Truce. Just truce. No apology, no clarification, no ownership." As if we were two toddlers who'd fought over a toy and needed to shake hands. I didn't respond to him either. They weren't trying to make amends. They were trying to regain access. To my time, to my energy, to my money. But that version of me, the one who gave endlessly, didn't exist anymore. And the moment they realized that, that's when everything truly fell apart. After the monk incident, after the pastry box apology, the hallway whispers, the trembling voices, my parents thought we'd reset. Not fully, not instantly, but enough for them to slide me back into orbit. Enough for the old version of me to return. The fixer, the giver, the structural support beam no one ever acknowledged, but everyone depended on. They mistook forgiveness for restoration, but forgiveness isn't glue, it's scissors. The days following their apology were strangely calm, almost eerily so. My mom sent me good morning texts again, bitmojis of coffee cups and hearts. My dad forwarded dad jokes. My siblings stayed quiet, the most honest thing any of them had done all year. And I said nothing, because I wasn't theirs anymore, not in the way they wanted. I'd forgiven them, but I wasn't going back. And they hadn't yet realized that the version of me they wanted had died quietly somewhere between that Instagram carousel and the refinance attempt. The final breaking point didn't come from a fight. It came from an envelope. My attorney emailed me. We have 3 interested buyers. Cash offers on the table, all above valuation. My heart didn't race. My stomach didn't drop. I just felt steady. Like this was the first decision in my life I was making entirely for myself, with no guilt tugging at my ribs, no obligation whispering in my ear. My lawyer asked, "Do you want to proceed?" I typed one word. Yes. Once I hit send, a profound silence settled over me. Not the tense quiet from my family's side, but a clean, uncluttered quiet, like a freshly swept room. The paperwork moved quickly. Cash buyers don't play games. Within a week, my 40% of the lake house, the house I found, battled for, fought to save, was no longer mine. The wire transfer cleared. My name came off the deed. I was officially out. Not just emotionally, legally, financially, completely. My family found out in the most poetic way possible, by trying to use something that no longer belonged to me. It was my brother who called. I didn't recognize the number at first. He'd blocked me weeks earlier in a fit of bravado, but the voicemail he left was unmistakably him. He sounded winded, tired, defeated. "So you really sold it, just like that?" There was a pause, a long one. You actually did it. You really got the last word." I didn't return the call. There was nothing left to say, because selling my share wasn't the last word. It was the first time I had ever written my own line. Later that afternoon, my mom left a voicemail too. Her voice wasn't angry, or desperate, or manipulative. It sounded tired, honest, human. "Rowan, I heard about the sale. We didn't think you'd really do it, I guess. We didn't understand how far things had gone." She sniffled. "We thought forgiveness meant we'd get you back, but we didn't realize forgiveness doesn't mean we get to keep you." There was another pause, a softer one. "You gave more than any of us, and we gave you nothing but conditions. We're sorry. We truly are. I just hope you're okay." She hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt a door closing, quietly, firmly, without slamming. A chapter ending without burning the book. After the sale, news traveled fast through the extended family. Apparently, my parents were now trying to sell the lake house entirely, off-market, quietly, because the repairs were too expensive, the upkeep too constant, and the place itself, according to one relative, feels heavy, like something's missing, like something got lost there and never came back. They meant me, the one who found the house, saved it, paid for it, held its beams together, filled it with the intention of family. And maybe that mattered more than they ever admitted. Maybe you can't erase the person who built the foundation, not without cracking the walls. As for me, I didn't take a victory lap, didn't brag, didn't gloat. I took the money from the sale and bought myself something small but entirely mine. A little townhouse on the edge of the city. Not fancy, not impressive, not Instagram-worthy. But when I unlocked the door for the first time, there was no ghost of resentment lingering in the walls. No unspoken debts. No collapsing dynamics. Just a quiet home and room to breathe. My therapist once told me, "You don't heal by fixing the people who hurt you. You heal by deciding their power ends where your door begins." And maybe that's the real twist in all of this. My family didn't lose the lake house because I sold my share. They lost it the moment they decided I didn't matter. And I finally believed them.